He took the sheriff's hand in a fight. Years later, he needed that same hand to save him. Before we ride into this tale, I've got something for you. More Wild West legends waiting right here by the fire. Each one carries its own dust, its own scar, and its own redemption. When this ride ends, don't let the sunset take you. Stay a while. The West never truly ends here. Now, tighten your reins. The story's about to begin. Before we start, tell me this. Have you ever hurt someone so deep that later, life made you need their forgiveness? What did it teach you about pride and mercy? Drop your story below. They light the path for the next rider. Now, let's begin. The afternoon sun over Dry Creek burned hotter than hellfire. Dust clung to every breath, and the only sound was the slow creak of the saloon door as Colt Danner stepped out, knuckles bleeding, jaw tight. Across the street stood Sheriff Harlan Pike, the lawman every man respected and every outlaw feared. But today, the law and the rebel weren't far apart. "You best walk away, Colt," Harlan warned, his voice low as thunder. Colt spat blood into the dirt. "Ain't walkin' from a man who ruined my brother's name." The crowd circled, waiting. Then fists flew. Colt swung wild, Harlan blocked, until one blow landed hard, snapping the sheriff's fingers backward. The crack echoed louder than any gunshot. Harlan dropped to one knee, clutching his right hand, the hand that once steadied a town. Colt froze. He hadn't meant to take his hand, just his pride. But pride was easier to heal. And as the sheriff's badge hit the dust, a silence fell over Dry Creek that would last for years. Weeks later, Harlan sat alone in his dim-lit office. His right hand hung useless, wrapped in cloth and shame. The doc said it'd heal crooked. He'd never shoot straight again. The town whispered. Some said he was finished. Others said he'd gone soft. Colt Danner had left town, vanished into the canyons like a ghost running from guilt. But guilt has a long shadow. Every time Harlan tried to draw, the pain reminded him who broke him. And every time he passed the Danner ranch, the empty windows reminded him who wasn't there. Colt's brother, Eli, had been shot during a cattle rustle gone wrong, a crime Harlan once blamed on him. Maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe the boy had been innocent. But justice had already been done, and guilt never brings back the dead. Harlan poured another drink. The night stretched thin. Outside, a coyote cried, long and lonely. He whispered to the dark, "Reckon a man can forgive what still hurts?" No one answered. 5 years later, the desert wind carried a familiar figure back into Dry Creek. Colt Danner, older, leaner, the fire in his eyes dulled but not dead. He rode a scarred Mustang, dust covering both man and beast. The saloon went silent when he stepped in. "Danner," the barkeep muttered. "Thought you were 6 feet under." "Not yet," Colt said, laying a silver coin on the counter. "Whiskey. And the sheriff's still here?" The barkeep nodded toward the window. Outside, Sheriff Pike was teaching a young deputy how to shoot, left-handed. Colt watched through the glass. That old hand still hung crooked at his side, a memory Colt had made. He wanted to walk away, but something, maybe guilt, maybe fate, made him stay. That night, he found himself standing outside the sheriff's office. "Evenin', Sheriff," Colt said softly. Harlan looked up, his good hand resting on his belt. "Didn't think I'd see your face again." "Neither did I," Colt replied. But the West's got a way of circling back. The air between them was thicker than smoke, and twice as dangerous. Trouble rode in 2 nights later. 3 riders, black dusters, red scarves, eyes like hunger. The Juneau Gang. They'd been robbing trains east of here. Now they wanted more. By dawn, the bank was ash and the deputy was bleeding in the street. Harlan limped out with his shotgun. He shot one of them clean, but the others escaped toward the canyon. The town buried the deputy that evening. Colt stood at the edge of the crowd, hat low, hands tight. He'd seen the Juno gang before. Years ago down south. He'd ridden with them for a spell, before he found his soul too heavy for outlaw dust. That night, Colt came to Harlan again. "You can't fight M with one good hand," Colt said. "And you think I'll trust you?" "No," Colt said quietly. "But you should trust the aim of the man who broke it." The sheriff stared hard at him. Then, after a long silence, "Meet me at sunrise." The sun rose red over Dry Creek, spilling fire across the horizon. Two riders, one lawman, one outlaw, rode side by side through the canyon's throat. Their shadows stretched long behind them, tangled like the past. They didn't talk much. Some things words can't fix. By noon, they found the Juno gang's trail. Fresh tracks by the river bend, boot prints heavy with arrogance. Harlan's hand trembled as he reloaded his shotgun. Colt noticed. "Want me to take the shot if it comes to it?" Harlan's jaw tightened. "You already took enough from me." "Fair," Colt said. "But if I'm gonna die trying to make it right, you'll let me pull my own weight." The sheriff said nothing, just nodded once. They rode on in silence, two men bound by what neither could undo. As night fell, they made camp near the cliffs. The fire crackled between them like the years they'd lost. Harlan stared into the flames. "You ever think about what you did?" "Every damn day," Colt said. "You?" "Every damn night." A coyote howled again, same as that night years ago. Harlan flexed his broken hand. "You know, I still wake up thinking it'll work again. Reach for my gun in my sleep." Colt's voice cracked. "I didn't mean to break it. Just wanted you to listen. Eli didn't steal those cattle. He was framed." "I know that now," Harlan said softly. "Too late to tell him, though." Colt stared at the fire. "Too late to fix a lot of things." "Maybe not everything," Harlan said, and tossed him a tin cup of coffee. For the first time in years, they shared a quiet that didn't feel like hate. At dawn, they reached the old mining ridge. Tracks everywhere. Too many. "It's a setup," Harlan muttered. Before Colt could answer, a rifle cracked. Dirt exploded near his boots. Down, they dove behind rocks as bullets shredded the sand around them. Three of the Juno boys were waiting, rifle steady. Colt returned fire, sharp and quick. One dropped. Harlan tried to reload. His right hand fumbled, shaking. Colt saw it, slid beside him. "I got you," he said, grabbing the gun, steadying the barrel. They fired together, one hand guiding the other. The last outlaw fell silent. Smoke drifted over the ridge. The echo faded. When the air cleared, Harlan looked at Colt, and for the first time since that fight, his eyes softened. "Guess that hand still had some use," Harlan said. "Yeah," Colt whispered. "Just needed the right reason to move again." They thought it was over, but the Juno gang had one more devil left. Reed Juno himself stepped out from the shadows, revolver drawn, grin wide as sin. Well, the lawman and the cripple. Ain't that a pair?" He fired. The bullet tore through Harlan's shoulder, spinning him down. Colt dove, returning fire, hitting nothing but dust. "Drop it, Danner," Juno barked, "or I'll finish him." Harlan groaned on the ground, bleeding. Colt froze. His gun trembled. He'd once hurt the sheriff. Could he now lose him for good? He took a breath, slow as prayer. Then, in one smooth motion, he hurled his gun sideways, landing it right beside Harlan's good hand. Harlan looked up, blood in his teeth, fire in his eyes. With that one broken hand guiding the other, he fired once. Reed Juno hit the dirt, and silence returned to the canyon. The sheriff lay bleeding, Colt pressing a bandana to his wound. "Don't you die on me now," Colt said, voice cracking. "Not after all this." Harlan managed a weak laugh. "Took my hand once. Guess it's only fair it got to return the favor." Colt's throat tightened. "You don't forgive me, do you?" "Forgiveness ain't a word, son," Harlan rasped. It's what a man does when he saves another anyway. They rode back to town slow, the sheriff pale, Colt steadying him in the saddle. When the townsfolk saw them return, side by side, they didn't ask questions. They just watched as two men, bound by the past, shared a kind of peace words couldn't explain. Weeks later, Dry Creek healed. The bank rebuilt. The deputy's grave got fresh flowers every morning, though no one ever saw who left them. Harlan's arm was in a sling, his hand wrapped but healing. Colt stayed around, working the ranch, fixing fences, fixing himself. One evening, the sheriff found him at the corral. "Town council wants to make you a deputy," Harlan said with a small grin. Colt chuckled. That'd make a hell of a headline. "Man who broke the law keeps it now." Harlan stepped closer, extended his once broken hand. "World's full of second chances. If you've got the guts to take 'em." Colt looked at the hand, the same one he'd shattered, now offered in peace. He took it, firm, solid. For a moment, two men stood there. Not law and outlaw, not past and pain, just men who'd finally forgiven what time could not erase. As the sun set behind them, the dust rose gold around their boots. And the West, for once, was quiet. Some wounds don't heal in flesh. They heal in the hands that choose to reach again. The dust settles slow out here. Men come and go, some chasing vengeance, others chasing peace. And a few lucky ones, like Colt and Harlan, find both. If this story hits somewhere deep, don't ride off just yet. There are more tales waiting in this same wide desert. Stories of broken men finding mercy, of lawmen facing their ghosts, of the West itself trying to heal. The fire's still warm. Stay a while, and catch the next story before the night takes the sky.